Hi, it's Therese from Lost in Paper, and it's time to Give Me 5 with Penny Black, and today I have 5 Prismacolor flower cards to share with you. Right, so I just want to change up each of the card designs a little bit. I've stamped out 3 images here using some onyx black, smoky grey and just a really light colour just to do some no-line colouring. I'm going to be doing what I like to call my yellow card first and I have this stamp's called Golden Dance, and I've decided to sort of change up each of the images. So this is the smoky grey image, and by not stamping it out in black it does give you a kind of a different look to the image. To be honest, I didn't stamp this one out very well at all, but I think I do save it. Where it looks like it's over stamped, like I've pressed too hard on it, I'll just make those leaves darker. So see what you think at the end, whether you can really tell that it wasn't stamped perfectly. I just didn't realise until I started colouring, and I didn't want to have to start again. The shading that I'm doing here, I'm doing with a brown colour pencil. I'm not actually using the black, which is what I do use a lot, or a grey, and the grey shading probably would have worked on the flowers as well, but by adding the brown shading actually gives me like a warm feel to the finish of the card. When I'm using my pencils, I do usually come in with the light base colour first, add my darker colour to the paper, and then blend them out with Gamsol, then come back in and do some extra shading on top, because I find that the Gamsol does make the whole colouring look lighter. It actually feels like it removes some of the colour. I have a blending stump for each colour family so that I'm not continuously changing my blending stumps over. I don't sharpen them often enough, I don't think, but you know, I'll get to it. I do it when I need to as opposed to when I should. So when I finish my colouring here, I can use the coordinating die cut to cut it out. I like that it cuts out little gaps in the flowers as well. It's called the Square Frames die, and it is a nesting die set. So I've cut out the second largest one, kept the border, and then reinserted the actual square frames portion. Before I joined them together, I did actually stamp a sentiment, and it's from the same stamp set, and I used the smoky grey ink for that. I used my Be Creative tape to join. I wanted it to look like that was one piece of cardstock, so I rejoined the die cut square frames and then popped up that whole panel with some fun foam, and also popped up my flower design. So this second image, which is like a really beautiful envelope floral image, which is called Bunches for You, I decided to do some no-line colouring, and this is a really light coloured ink that I've stamped it in, and what I like to do is keep the image off to the side so that I can refer to it. I know it's called no-line colouring, there is actually lines there, but what it kind of means is that by the time you finish colouring you can't see the original stamping, or you can barely see the original stamping. It's almost like a guide, so it does make it hard to see, and I really like the way that this makes the images look a lot softer. Doesn't matter what medium you do it with, it just gives a real soft finish. You don't end up with the black stamped edges. So if you want a real sort of a subtle effect with your Prismacolor pencils, I think this looks really pretty. And it's like watercolouring for me. There's always a point in no-line colouring where I think, no, it's just not working. It's looking too bland, too light, can't see the picture anymore. It's just one of those things. I would recommend that you just persevere with it a bit, and you will find that you will be able to see the picture come to life if you keep adding some extra shading along the way. And what I like to do here is I still use my Gamsol to blend it out, but I'll also come back in with a nice sharp pencil and add some extra detail to the lines. And it does take time, no-line colouring. I find I do have to concentrate a lot more when I'm doing it like this. So The darker colour that I came in with here was actually a grey. I think the black was a little bit too dark, so I used quite a dark grey for that. The sentiment was taken from the Snippets stamp set, and it's just partially stamped and heat embossed on some black cardstock. And I've got a little tiny tag which comes from the gift card pocket stamp set. No, it's not. It's the gift card pocket die set. And I attached it to the card front, added a little heart enamel dot and a twine bow. That's probably, I mean, they're all very clean and simple cards today, but that's probably the most clean and simple of all my designs today. So now I'm on to my purple card, and this is using the blushing stamp, and I have stamped this one out with some Onyx Black ink, so it's a pigment ink, fast drying one, and this works really well with Prismacolor pencils. I'm still doing the same sort of technique here where I add my colour and then blend it out. I like to do a petal at a time, or a section at a time, and colour each petal separately. It just helps me get some variation of the light on the petals. And then I can also come in with, and this time I did come in with the black and add my shading, and I didn't actually blend it out. If I do add black for the shading, sometimes I blend it out if I think it needs it. Okay, I've splattered a background with some black ink and adding a butterfly from the enamel stamp set, and just used the pigment ink again there. Popped up the flower, which was die cut with the coordinating cutout, and added a thank you from the Good Day stamp set. Now this is probably my favourite from the set, and I didn't like this one as I was colouring it. It's another example of some no line colouring, but this time it's the whole flower. This is one of those beautiful image stamps that I have so much trouble using. I love the look of them, but I also love to have different, I usually just use a kind of a more of a watercolor technique with these images. So for me to be able to stamp it out and use my Prismacolor pencils with it is a really great way to get more from this stamp. I do keep the packaging definitely beside me here because I just need to see where the petals are. It's hard to tell because I've used such a light ink that I'm colouring with. But basically I'm using the same technique. I'm coming in with my darker pencil to draw in the outlines where the petals are, and then my middle shade, and then my lighter shade. Coming in with my Prismacolor, oh no I'm not, coming in with my blending stumps and my Gamsol and blending them out. Taking my time and then coming back in and adding some shading and some details as well. The center of the flower, I had to actually draw the stamen in with a black pencil here. I put a base color of yellow in there first. And I did exactly the same things for the leaves. I did 2 tones of green initially, blended them out, and then actually came in with the darker color to add some extra sort of shading, and then used the black as well. And this was one of those flowers, I just wasn't sure how it was going to go, but I wanted to give it a try, and I think it worked out well, and it does sort of change the look of the stamp as well. And this is my pink card. I'm using an oval die to cut out the center portion of my flower, adhering the outside portion directly to the front of a top fold card, and then popped up the center just to give it a little bit of interest, I suppose, and added a thank you, which was heat embossed again on black from the Garden stamp set. Alright, so this is another, and they're both, these 2 stamps are both cling stamps, so red rubber cling stamps, and this time I'm doing, this is how I normally would use one of these stamps. I've got my Tombow markers, and I am using Bristol smooth cardstock here just to help the colour activate better. It doesn't work very well on Nina. And I'm adding my colour directly to the stamp, spritzing it with water, and then stamping it down in my Misty, allowing it to dry, and then I came back in and did the green separately. This time I'm actually using my Prismacolor pencils to add the details So I came in with some greys as well as some of the colours that were exactly the same or matched the Tombow markers that I used here, and that just allowed me to add some of the petals in, but I did try and keep it fairly loose. I didn't want it to be too perfect. I did use the stamp packaging for a reference guide, but I also used the way that the Tombow markers had dried on the paper to work out where I want my petals to be. I love the fact that Prismacolor pencils are so versatile and that they mix really well with all the other mediums. I use it with my Copics, I'm using it with my watercolours, I'm using them on their own, and I find them one of the easiest mediums to use. I've added a splattered background to the front of my card and a sentiment embossed. It's from the Happy Times stamp set, and popped up the flower on the front of my card. Thanks for watching, and remember there are lots of ways that you can connect with Penny Black. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the YouTube channel, as well as visit Penny Black at Facebook, Instagram, and check out their blog and website. I've linked everything below, including my blog where you can find a list of the exact supplies that I used. I hope you've enjoyed this episode of Gimme 5 Same but Different Cards with Penny Black. I look forward to seeing you here next time. Bye!